Sorry about that. I was typing. It's a new round of soccer down here. John, hear you there. And I thought I had some soda near me. Man, I am not prepared at all this morning. Sorry, I was typing something, and it carried us past 9:05, and it carried us past 9:06. So it's completely entirely on me. Evening bam. So there's plenty to talk about this morning. I've got opening kickoff, and it has to do with typing things. So we'll get into that coming up in just a little bit. We've got a sacking to talk about in Major League Soccer. Happened last night. Jarrett pretty much had it pegged that this would go down after a particular result on the weekend. We got the twos to talk about. We've got hot seat to talk about. Morning, Ricky. Morning, Tom. And we've got any other thoughts that you guys have from Atlanta United, some awards that came Gigi's way. So let's see. We got Major League Soccer to talk about. We got Women's World Cup to talk about. Sadly, again, we now have some more information out from the Spanish national team about what did and did not apparently possibly happen when it came to the releasing of the video that we saw yesterday from the head of the federation after what happened during the tournament and during the final. So we've got news of the morning. We've got all the transfer news. We've got stuff out of Spain. We've got sackings in Major League Soccer. We've got coach ideas in Major League Soccer. And so we've got all of that this morning. And Tom, being the intrepid Twitch pitch producer that he is, did not see this either. Okay, so we'll add that to the stacks as well. And Tom, we can get into Everton if you want when it comes to all of the other things. So opening kickoff brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee, kickoffcoffeeco.com. There's your QR code for those who are watching on Twitch or on Twitter or on the Facebook page for Soccer Down Here. And what we started doing a couple weeks ago is laying it all out where, okay, short of being on the YouTube channel, because this goes to YouTube anyway, later, what we've done is we've just kind of expanded our footprint a little bit and put it to most of the social medias and not just Twitch as a part of our broadcast every morning. So that's your QR code from our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. Don't forget, use the code SoccerDownHere15. You get 15% off of your purchase. They, in turn, take 10% reinvested into the youth game and youth initiatives that they deem worthy and have targeted. And once again, that's our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. So it has to do with email. And I was looking at and I've got entirely too many email accounts. I will say it. But because of the different versions of me, I need news releases to go one place. I need sports stuff to go to another place. I need my normal email to go to a third place. And I need to upload things. And I have one specifically basically for uploading that's not tied to like something like WeTransfer or Dropbox or something like that. So I was doing the math kind of as I was banging an email out this morning. And I don't know how many email accounts you guys have as a rule. But I have I think I've got 8 from various jobs and directions that things need to go and things like that. So I've got 8 different email addresses, and they perform various functions and things like that. And so I was wondering openly how many you guys have. Ricky's got 6. And I imagine it's, where you sit there. Bam's got 3, spam email for random stuff, professional email, and your LAFC AUS email. And I mean, Bam, that would make a lot of sense where you've got one for work, one for business, one for personal. But because of all of the information, and Tom's got 3, so 2 personal and 1 work. Because of just all the different information and all the different jobs that I have and all this kind of stuff. That's why I ended up with 8. There's one I really don't look at. And I haven't looked at it. I look at it maybe once a year to clean it out. And then there's the one I look at once a week to clean out, which was my first personal account. I still have an AOL account. I still have an AOL email account. And then the others are work and then Gmail, which is attached to everything SDH and all of that. So I didn't know if my 8 was entirely too many or not. So I like I said, I was just checking. And the thing is, looking at my main email account, I've got 11,200 emails that are available to me out of 16,394. This is my main Gmail account, 16,394 emails in that account itself. And I think I've looked at 11,198 of them. So, yeah. So Tom's like, yes, I remember as well. There's one that I only clean out once a year. So Tom has revised and extended his remarks. He's got 4. Ricky, 3 personal, 1 professional, 1 shared with your wife, and 1 for stuff for your kid. You seen that? And now that's the thing. It's like all of the Major League Soccer, all of the soccer team press releases and emails, they go to like 1 or 2 separate accounts. I have one that's specific to like Atlanta United stuff. That's got 1. Major League Soccer, USL, all the team emails, they go to another one. The personal one, the professional one, that's got a 3rd one. Then there's the one that uploads all the material. And then I have one that's tied to another sport and another show that I do. So that's why I was like, okay, I can kind of sort it out, but I have to remember where to look, when to look, and all those kinds of things. And so that was where, that was why just this morning, looking at the sheer number of emails I had in this one particular account, I was wondering, and the damn thing just keeps growing. It's like you sit there and you think that you're eliminating enough emails and you're eliminating enough space and everything, and it turns out that you end up with like 45 new emails that you want to keep for some reason, as opposed to when you're not. So, I just basically it was just an email check from me to you, trying to figure out if I had too many, if I didn't have enough, or if I, was in line with how things were with emails. So that was part of opening kickoff. And Tom, I'm going to go ahead and include what you sent as a part of opening kickoff from Salman Khan, who's over at BNN. You sent this to me. Sky Sports apologizes for insensitive comments about Everton manager Sean Dyche. And that came out just as we were going on the air this morning. So Sky has issued an apology for remarks about Sean Dyche during the team's 4-0 defeat by Aston Villa on Sunday. Commentators Bill Leslie and Andy Hinchcliffe commented on Dyche's clothing, likening his appearance to that of a croupier, a term often associated with those who supervise gaming tables at casinos. And I mean, traditionally, Sean Dyche, very, very minimalist. He won't wear a blazer unless it's like warmer, and maybe he'll go to the quarter zip with a tie, something that's always got a tie attached. Tie, dress shirt, slacks, very, very minimalist. And, it's not showy or anything like that. He's not a guy that's going to sit there and wear like a Jerry Garcia tie or anything like that. Very, very monochromatic, just very, very basic. Hey, this is my presentation for being a manager in the Premier League. It is dress shirt, tie, slacks, dress shoes, what have you. It's just always been his way. So Leslie and Hinchcliffe said that. And during the match, Dyche was seen wearing a black armband as a tribute to Michael Jones, a construction worker who tragically lost his life while working on Everton's new stadium over at Bramley Moore Dock. Spokesperson for Sky expressed regret for any upset or distress caused, in quotation marks, by the comments, deeming them insensitive and regrettable. They stated that discussions have taken place with all parties involved in the coverage, including the commentators, to emphasize the importance of care and sensitivity. Both Bill Leslie and former Everton defender Andy Hinchcliffe have expressed remorse for their remarks. In honor of Michael Jones, players, coaching staff, supporters paid tribute to the construction worker. Everton fans applauded in the 26th minute. Banners were displayed. Black armbands worn to commemorate the lifelong Everton supporters' passing. Liverpool manager Jurgen Klopp and his squad also visited the site near the River Mersey to lay flowers as a sign of respect before their match against Bournemouth on Saturday. So, and this is another thing that, as I've grown old and crotchety, and we're still, by the way, this is still an opening kickoff. There are the folks that will make a dig on the air thinking that they're being clever and being edgy and being cute. And my patience for that, instead of just doing a job, doing it well, and if you can come in with a funny comment as a part of the procession of the event that you're covering, I'm cool with it. But a lot of times there are too many folks out there that want to make the dig. They want to sit there and make the stereotypic statement of whatever it is. And I know we've all seen them. And I don't know, as I've grown older, it just drives me more and more crazy that instead of sitting there and going, look, just call them at you. And if you've got a natural moment of humor, fantastic. If you've got a dig that's kind of funny, great. But making fun of folks as a part of your on-air shtick, and I know that it's part of the deal these days. I know that folks want to do that. I know it's part of the DNA, which is sad, that you feel like you've got to dig somebody else to elevate yourself in a situation. It's disappointing that in this industry we have folks that want to do that instead of do your job well. And like I said, if humor is a natural part of it, great. If there's an observation that's kind of, off the wall, I will admit that what I've done is when I go and I talk to college kids, high school kids, when I have discussions with interns about the industry and they have questions that they always have. First off, I will say that no question is a stupid question, because when you ask a question, when you're starting out in the industry, if you want to do it for a living, no question is ever stupid because it's been asked before. Then you do those kinds of, you ask those kinds of questions. You ask those questions. And so I've never been afraid to tell someone younger, ask the question. It's been asked before. It'll be asked again. Go ahead and ask it. That's just how I'm wired. When it comes to my style of on air, I will tell those young folks trying to get into the industry, I'll tell you things. I'll tell you what you want to know, but don't try to be like me on the air, because my style is so far over to one side that people will know what you're trying to do. Be yourself in all of this. But when you're being yourself, as Tom says, in this particular instance, people don't wear black armbands as fashion statements. How does it even enter your brain to joke about that one? I mean, I can, Tom, as you presented this story this morning, for me, it reminds me of those older movies with the presentation, morning forecast, and representation of the old gaming halls. And like I said, this is stereotypic of what we used to see from like the old westerns and like Gunsmoke and those old western movies where you had the guy who was in charge of the gaming hall and he had the visor on and he had the armband on the way that he did. I'm not under any circumstance justifying what they did. It was it's just absolutely incorrect, wrong, don't do it. It's just that I know where those visions come from, being of a certain demographic. why you would want to sit there and draw a comparison in that way when someone is wearing a black armband out of respect is what gets me. It's like, I don't know why you want to make that kind of a joke. It's not funny. And why do you want to make that kind of a joke in the first place? I do not get it. I do not get it. I do not understand it. But apparently the two announcers that had the Everton match on Sky, they got the eternal television finger wag for making that kind of a comment in a match where a team was mourning a loss of a construction worker. And so, yeah, let's make a joke about somebody that runs a gambling hall. Yeah, hopefully it was a little more than a finger wag, but you don't do those kinds of things. We always want the dig these days. Instead of just doing your job, doing it well, and being known for that, some folks want to get the dig in. And if you don't know the context of a situation, you don't know why something's being done, you want to sit there and you make it funny. In this case, it wasn't funny. Morning, Sharif. So that's where we are. Hopefully, Sky has given the long finger wag of TV production to those two announcers for what they did in the match against Everton this past weekend. Bottom line is it wasn't cool. And I'd like to think that there are those of us in this industry who know what's cool and what isn't, what we can do and what we shouldn't. But unfortunately, sometimes we pass over a line thinking that we're making it funny. If you don't know the context in a situation, just ask. Hey, they're doing they're remembering someone. Let's ask why. Why are you wearing an armband? Those kinds of things. Just simple. Just ask the question. Ask the question, get the answer, and then you won't be doing things like you did on the broadcast. So that's opening kickoff. Brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee. KickoffCoffeeCO.com. There's your QR code once again. For those who are watching on Twitch. And if you're watching on Twitch, once again, use the code SoccerDownHere15. You get 15% off of your purchase. They, in turn, take 10% reinvested into youth games and youth initiatives from our friends at Kickoff Coffee and KickoffCoffeeCO.com. So this is how unprepared I am this morning coming in at 9:05. My drink is on the other side of the sofa. I'll be right back. Sorry, I should have played a musical interlude. That's on me. Yeah, that's where I am this morning. It's like trying to do about 19 things at once and answering 8 different emails. Then you end up doing things like that. I should have played a musical interlude. That's on me entirely. Lead story this morning comes out of Major League Soccer. And cheers. Gio Savarese was sacked, fired. Well, I mean, bam, I got to do something to cover up a walk of shame for getting props here for the show. Gio Savarese got fired last night. And Jarrett, I think, pretty much had it pegged that after losing 5-0 to Ben Olsen in Houston, that it was going to happen. And it did. Timbers parting ways with Gio. Assistant coach Miles Joseph will serve as interim head coach for the remainder of the season. Quote from Merritt Paulson. Gio's been an exceptional coach for the Timbers and a joy to work with. He's achieved some fabulous results during his tenure with the club, including 2 MLS Cup appearances and the MLS's back championship. I want to thank Gio for all he's given us. He'll be missed. Joined the club prior to the 2018 MLS season, compiling a 74, 62, and 47 record in 5+ seasons at the helm. The Timbers 6-10-8 sit 12th in the Western Conference with 10 matches remaining in the 23 campaign. 2 MLS Cup finals. Folks here in Atlanta remember one of them, 2018 and 2021. Team won the MLS's back tournament in 2020. Remember, MLS is back. As a matter of fact, I've got the championship scarf over there. Winningest coach in franchise history, Savarese guided Portland to postseason 4 consecutive times between 18 and 21, quoting GM Ned Grabavoy. Incredibly grateful for the commitment Gio's given to the Portland Timbers over the last 6 seasons. It's been an honor to have had the chance to work with him. His success during his time with the club speaks for itself. We wish Gio the best moving forward. I believe the club is ready for a new direction and voice to help lead us forward. Miles Joseph will take over as interim coach as we begin our process to identify who will help lead the team, who will help lead our team in the years ahead. This moment serves as a chance for our club to reset with the goal of reestablishing our ability to consistently compete at the highest level, end quote. And Jarrett talked yesterday about Gio and his time with the New York Cosmos of the North American Soccer League. And we had said, Jason had said on the show that back at the time, hey, if you were looking for a head coach and you end up with Gio Savarese as the first head coach of Atlanta United, and like I said, this is as a part of the early discussions. This was not in any kind of combat or comparison with Tata Martino. But when names were out there initially, one of the first names that Jason and Jared had out there was Gio Savarese. I mean, here's a guy who literally was trying to help his players get gigs and his staff get gigs as the North American Soccer League version 2.0 was falling down around itself. This is the kind of guy Gio Savarese is. He's trying to find gigs, keeping himself up late at night, getting very little sleep, as the Cosmos are one of the few teams investing in themselves in the league and being somewhat solvent about it. But the league is falling down, and Gio Savarese is trying to find his players and his staff gigs. That's the kind of guy you get with Gio Savarese. You know, we would always joke about zombie sounders, and we would joke about, zombie Timbers and that kind of stuff. Timbers are going to hold an in-person press conference with Ned Grabavoy at 1:45 this afternoon. For those of you in Portland, media access, training availability, the first 15 minutes of exercises and drills are open to shoot, but then Ned Grabavoy is going to have his press opportunity at 1:45, so keep an eye out for that this afternoon. But the question is somewhat twofold now. The question is twofold. Should someone like Gio Savarese get the chance to finish out a season? I would say that he's earned that. I would say that Gio Savarese, with everything that he has done, has earned the chance. And I know that last season we were asking the same questions. And Dylan Butler joins us next. We'll ask Wednesday. The next time Dylan Butler joins us, let's put it that way. If I can get my modifiers correct. Next time Dylan Butler joins us, next time we have all of our Major League Soccer experts coming on, we will discuss Gio Savarese. I think that Gio Savarese earned the opportunity to finish out the season. Whatever happens after the season. You make the playoffs. You know, you go in as the 9. Great. You don't make it. Great. Whatever. I mean, you look at where things stand right now. Looking at the Western Conference, Portland's 5 points out of a playoff spot with the matches left on the schedule. You know, you get a run together. You make up those 5 points, you get in as a 9, anything can happen. But I think that Gio Savarese, for what he has done to Portland, had earned the right to finish out the season. Because, once again, you fire somebody now, you're averaging a goal game. You're giving up 24-38, goal and a half, 1-7-5 on the road. All right, so let's go down this road. As I say, let's workshop this. Well, let's workshop the remainder of the season here in Portland. You've got Vancouver at home. Should be able to manage that one. RSL, that's a tough one. That's also at home, though. Cascadia in September, go to Seattle, host LAFC, go to Austin. Austin's a question we'll bring up in a bit. Home to San Jose, home to Colorado, go to LAG, go to Montreal, host Houston to finish things up on decision day. So the remaining games on your schedule, Vancouver should be able to handle that one. Salt Lake, not so much, but it's at home. So let's say 3 points so far. Seattle at Lumen Field, don't know about that one. LAFC at home, don't know about that one. Austin, you ought to be able to get at least a point out of there. San Jose, you should win that one. Colorado, you should win that one. So that's 10 points. At LAG, draw 11. Losing in Montreal, and then maybe a point on decision day. So 12 points, I think, in the run-in. I know, Tom, it's my time that I spent working for a Canadian network. It's Morel. Toronto, the middle T's, any kind of middle T doesn't exist. Montreal, Toronto. 12 points, I think, in some combination for Portland in the run-in. So that would put them – 12 points puts you at 38. And, Ricky, if you end up with 9, you're at 35. So Ricky's thinking 9. I'm thinking 12. But like I said, I'm looking at Austin getting a point on the road there, and I think that there are a couple of games at home. I think that you should be able to get something done. I don't know how much you're going to get done on the road, but still, even if we take 9 to 12 points, 35 to 38 points for Portland, I still think that with everything that Gio Savarese has done, that he should have earned with all of his capital the chance to finish out the season just to see what happens. Like I said, to get that 9, you're only 5 points out. Don't have as many bodies to climb as others, but I think that Gio had earned the right to finish out. Assistant coach is going to be there to finish the season. Okay, I get that. Great, fine, sure. You're not going to have some kind of catastrophic personality clash. New guy comes in. It's not like Gus Hiddink or something like that. Gus Hiddink, who comes in and just kind of sits there and he's a caretaker for a while and then he leaves. And then, someone else gets fired. Hey, let's get Gus on the phone. It's not a situation like that. You have an already based assistant coach that's going to be a part of that. But I still think that Gio Savarese had earned the right to finish that season there in Portland. Because, I mean, if you think about it, with all of that, now you're looking at, okay, what's next step for Gio? Does Gio take some time off? Does he go to the booth? I would be intrigued by his natural intensity in the booth. Bring him on the desk as a pundit. Tommy Scoops, Tom Bogert had said that Red Bulls were an early contender. Forecard says Toronto is smart. They should get Gio. Knicks in return. Toronto is clearly not smart, however. So, and he has Bam piling on as well. Rich Ransom says Gio to NYC, which would be interesting. Knicks feels time was over. Go ahead and start making plans for next year. I would say that you ought to be able to multitask. Understand what you do is you sit there and you say, Gio's contract will not be renewed after this season. We will celebrate his time here in Portland, and we will do our best with this club and see how things go. Something like that. Some kind of some kind of incredibly positive statement. We've decided not to renew Gio Savarese's contract after this season. We thank him for everything that he has done here with the organization. We look forward to a future, but let's all celebrate Gio Savarese and, see what happens. Something incredibly positive to make sure that it doesn't sound like he's getting the door slammed on his toes or he's getting his hand caught in the car door. Nick says, go ahead and start making plans for next year, although the front office has done him zero favors. Bam can do that already. Look at LAFC and keeping Bob for the rest of the season before Dolo took over. Ricky Portland wasn't doing anything anyways. Nick's is like, why keep him? Ricky shows some respect to the best coach you've ever had. Bam, because you have to pay him for the rest of the season. Ricky's like that too. Ricky firing isn't going to change anything this season. Still going to play his style, still his players. Bam, this stage you fired Gio, assistant coach who's been running with Gio's system. What will that change? I don't think not much. And this is interesting. I like this idea. From Tom. What about a candidate for the women's national team? We'll see what Bart thinks next time we have him on. Tom, bookmark that. Rich, NYC guy runs the NYC team. So that's what you're looking at. And there's a lot of suggestions. A lot of suggestions. Bit of an update. I'll go ahead and hit the music on this one because we do have practice. Jason is at practice this morning. You'll see on his social medias that he is there as they get ready for Nashville. Doug Robertson at the AJC is at practice. Saba flies into Atlanta tonight. Chiade has his visa appointment today. So, getting closer to having the Fab Four involved. Getting closer. And I know that we talked about Muyumba yesterday. We can talk about Muyumba all week. And also Xande Silva. Xande Silva from the left-hand side, not afraid to move it to his right foot and challenge early on. Had a busy 45 minutes. Will, I don't expect wise decisions from Merritt Paulson. But so it looks like Saba's flying into Atlanta tonight. Saba, Silva, Saba. And Muyumba's already around. Chiade has his visa appointment today. Knicks. Early returns. Muyumba is that dude. Really like what I've seen so far. You are not alone. The confidence with Tristan Muyumba that we've seen in the midfield, he's bossing it. He's like, and he doesn't have any fear about using his imagination to get out of a jam, outside of the foot, chip here, all those kinds of things. Like what I've seen so far from Muyumba. And, but yeah, that dude, Datdude. Muyumba is that dude. Speaking of Toronto, you guys mentioned Toronto, by the way. And that situation is becoming more and more intriguing. Tom, I don't know if Saba gets at least some time on Saturday. With fitness not an issue. Maybe you bring him in off the bench. Bring him off the bench and you start, maybe it's some combination of Xande Silva and Saba on the left-hand side. 60-30. How many minutes can Saba give you? How many minutes can Xande Silva give you? 45 and 45? 60-30, something like that. See him run at the back line of Nashville. That would be fun. We mentioned Toronto. And the stories that continue out of Toronto, and I'm going to try and track down Joshua Clokey. So this is from our friends at The Athletic. Canada manager John Herdman, front runner for Toronto FC job, sources. Of course, when we always see something that says sources, could be anybody close to the situation. So from Joshua Clokey and Tom Boger. Joshua's got a book out on the Canadian men's national team, by the way, and I wanted to get him to discuss it, Les Voyageurs. in addition to what else is going on up there in Toronto. Paragraph. Canada men's national team manager John Herdman is considered the front runner to be appointed Toronto FC head coach. Sources briefed on the negotiation said. Follows the report from 8 days ago. Herdman and Toronto had conversations about the position. While the possibility of TFC hiring Herdman could still collapse in the final stages, multiple sources briefed on recent events said Herdman met with Toronto FC officials in Toronto in August. So they met this month to discuss the role. Herdman's representation originally approached TFC with interest in the job, those sources said. I'm going to call a timeout. So, what does this say? I'm taking my first time out of this article. So what does that sentence say about what John Herdman thinks is currently going on with the Canadian men's national team? ... Question mark. If his representation is approaching TFC, already employed by the Canadian men's national team. Hey, bro, Mr. Manning. Hello, Bill Manning.
Mr. Manning, there's a phone call on line 1. Bill Manning, phone call line 1.
Herdman's representation originally approached TFC with interest in the job. What does that say about the state of affairs with the Canadian men's national team right now? Question mark. All right, that's my 30. That's my first 30 of the show. Other coaches on the short list with Herdman for the position include Forge FC head coach Bobby Smirniotis, DC United assistant Carl Robinson, who has said he's happy where he is, and former QPR manager Mark Warburton. Herdman remains at the top of the list. What remains in the air, however, is the possible timing of the hire. According to sources, there remains some debate within TFC and Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment about whether to appoint a new coach during the season, which would give the team its third coach this year, or wait until the offseason when a more comprehensive examination of TFC can be conducted by MLSE. Oh, no, Tom, no. It was not meant to be Lily Tomlin.
One ringy dingy.
No, it was not meant to be Lily Tomlin.
2 ringy dingies.
No. Close, but not quite. That was not what was going through my head, just in general. That was an exceedingly generic phone answering individual at the front office of Toronto FC and MLSE. Yes, Lily Tomlin.
One ringy dingy.
Go to her characters in Laugh In. Snort laughs and those kinds of things. And see if you can find the telephone receptionist character for Lily Tomlin during Laugh In. That's what we're talking about here. Herdman remains at the top of the list. They could wait till the end of the season. Do they hire him now or do they wait? Or do you just sit there and say, joining us at the end of this season will be John Herdman, which would be just as effective. Let the season be what the season is. Sean Johnson out for a month. They had to sign Luka Gavron to a contract. Bernadeschi leaving, maybe, possibly, probably. Insigne leaving, possibly, probably. They both probably should. Sources briefed on the interview process, resuming the article. And I have mentioned in other conversations on the Fired Up Network, because I am a part of their soccer show panel on Fridays. So it's like I finish this show on Friday, try to upload the show to the app. Then I'm on the Fired Up Network, which you can watch on Momitu and a bunch of other places. And I'm on their soccer show, which is like 11:30, 12:15. Time is somewhere in there, but it's live on Fridays. I'd mentioned Bobby Smirniotis, but apparently there's more infighting with other agencies there inside Canada. And would TFC hire a Canadian Premier League manager? Smirniotis by far is the most successful CPL manager. But would you hire a CPL manager? How much buzz would you get from that? Be a great hire for the CPL. Be a great hire through Canada Soccer, but the buzz, you would not win the press conference. Sources briefed on the interview process told The Athletic that Bill Manning wants the next coach to undergo a full rebuild of the team's roster. TFC has just 9 matches remaining. While they're not mathematically eliminated from postseason contention, second to last in the East, 19 points after 25 matches. Their .76 points per game is last in Major League Soccer. TFC fired Bob Bradley June 26, naming Terry Dunfield interim manager. Jason Hernandez has since been named general manager. Any debate over whether the 2023 season is TFC's worst seems to have ended. Things keep going, then they probably will pick back up again, but that's just me. One of the highest payrolls in the league, TFC is in the middle of a 10-match MLS winless streak during which they've scored just 5 goals. League's Cup campaign was a disaster, with the team losing both by matches of a combined 6-0. They last made the playoffs in 2020. Clokey and Bogart say, all of which would set Herdman up to try to do what he did with Canada's men's national team, build it up to contention from the ground up. It's that opportunity to have a clean slate and plenty of runway to improve TFC that must appeal to Herdman. The men's national team talent was there. John Herdman got to assemble it and convince those that needed to be a part of it to be a part of it. Build it up to contention. It was the ability of the players. John Herdman likes to change philosophies match to match to match and then decide he wants to be on the front page of newspapers and call out your opposition. That didn't go very well last year. Paragraph. Herdman led Canada's men's team to the 22 World Cup, only the second qualification in men's team history, the first since '86. A generation of unprecedented young talent led Canada to the top of CONCACAF World Cup qualifying. Team failed to earn a point over 3 games at the World Cup, subsequently lost the Nations League final and the Gold Cup quarterfinal. That's my point. For Herdman, the timing for a move out of Canada Soccer and to TFC lines up well. Canada Soccer has been unable to book any friendlies for the upcoming September international window, citing financial constraints, according to Interim General Secretary Jason DeVos. If you look at it that way, you can see why John Herdman would want to leave. But how many folks would look at Herdman as a job hopper, going from the women's team to the men's team and from the men's team to TFC? You're not spending a whole lot of time in these positions going 1-to-1-to-1. In July, DeVos told The Athletic Canada Soccer was exploring collaborating with the U.S. Soccer Federation and the Mexican Football Federation on friendly opportunities. Germany, Ghana, and Uzbekistan are all traveling to the U.S. That reminds me, I've got to apply for that match. Play friendlies against the U.S. and Mexico during the upcoming international windows, but Canada was unable to secure friendlies with any of these opponents. Either pay your players or have camps. That's where Canada Soccer is right now. And on that news alone, I can understand why John Herdman would want to go. The only match Canada has on the books is an October 13 friendly against Japan. With over a month and a half until Canada's next match, Herdman could see a prime opportunity to make his transition to a new role. If that were to happen, I'd love to see what that friendly is going to look like in the assembly of that roster. Who's going to want to show up for the October 13th match against Japan? And with just one match scheduled, compared to the likes of Mexico and the U.S., who each have 4 booked in the September and October windows combined, Herdman's frustration with Canada Soccer's financial limitations may have driven him away from the Fed. Public frustration with Canada Soccer boiled over after the Nations League final loss to the U.S. in June. Lambasted his own federation for a lack of resources compared to other CONCACAF teams, and said Canada Soccer was not serious about the chance to win the World Cup they're co-hosting in 2026. Contract negotiations with Canada Soccer and the men's national team are ongoing. On August 18th, representatives from Canada's men's national team's Players Association released a statement 4 days ago, saying Canada Soccer has threatened to stop scheduling games, including potentially our CONCACAF Nations League quarterfinal matches in November, and thereby eliminate our ability to qualify for the 2024 Copa America unless and until we agree to reduce our offer even lower, end quote. Should Canada not participate in official FIFA-sanctioned matches, the men's national team would be suspended by FIFA. Nevertheless, recent statements suggest an end to the turmoil is nowhere in sight, and that could at least in part be spurring Herdman's move to TFC. Article mentions his move from the women's national team. Move may not come as a shock. Hiring Herdman. Here's your last paragraph. Hiring Herdman would be a coup for Manning, the TFC president. He has long wanted TFC to be a home for national team players heading into the 26 World Cup when BMO Field in Toronto will host games. Landing Canada's national team coach would be a step in that direction. Herdman would be a high-profile hire that would provide promise to TFC fans. He's still lauded by many Canadian soccer fans, and having him on the touchline could be seen as a reason for fans to attend TFC matches. Hey, we've hired the former men's national team coach. Let's go to BMO Field. That's an odd 1 + 1 = 2. That is a very odd 1 + 1 = 2. How do I get folks in my building? I'm going to hire the former men's national or the current men's national team coach. And if you're a fan of the national team, considering what has happened in recent form, Nations League, World Cup, etc., does that sound like motivation to go and see either the men's national team coach or TFC being coached by the former national team's men's coach at that point? I'm legitimately asking. I'm legitimately asking that question. Do all of those things sit there and draw you closer to wanting to go watch a TFC match? We've hired John Herdman away. If I was a fan of Canadian men's national team with recent form, would I be that jacked up about going to see TFC because you hired away John Herdman, considering recent results? And is John Herdman going to be that much of a drawing card for all right, I'm going to try to find I'm trying to find the most up-to-date roster for the Canadian men's national team in soccer. I don't want history. Okay, so the current squad, 23 players that were named to the Gold Cup. Dane St. Clair and Tom McGill. If I'm Dane St. Clair, am I leaving Minnesota United to Toronto FC? Maybe. Defense. Zachary Broguillard from CF Montreal. He's within Major League Soccer, so you could make that kind of a move. Kamal Miller's at Inter Miami. I'm not leaving Inter Miami if I'm Kamal Miller. Steven Vittoria, who's 36. I don't think he's going to be leaving Chavez and coming to go play domestically. Zetor, Corona Kielce, Moise Bombito with the Rapids, maybe at 23. Zach McGraw with Portland, maybe. Ali Ahmed, maybe in Vancouver. Richie Larea, he's been in Toronto. Do you draw him back? Scott Kennedy in Wolfsburger. Midfield. Liam Frazier's at FC Dallas. You could get David Wotherspoon, but he's 33. He's at unattached FC. Liam Miller's at Basel. Victor Loturi, Ross County. Jonathan Osorio is currently already playing in Toronto. Forwards. Jaden Nelson's at Rosenborg. Lucas Cavallini's at Tijuana. Junior Hoylitz at Reading. Jacob Schaffelberg, Jason Russell-Rowe. Schaffelberg is doing really well in Nashville. I don't see why going to go play for John Herdman in Toronto would be a drawing card. Jason Russell-Rowe, he's doing well with Crew. With that roster that you currently have, I mean, recent call-ups. Borjan Pantemis at Montreal. Maybe. And you have to look at this like dudes who are in the league already. Can you attract them to go play from where they are to go to Toronto to play just because Herdman is there? If you have that kind of faith, yeah, I'm going to go to Toronto. If I'm Maxime Crépeau, bam, am I leaving LAFC to go play Toronto? I don't think so. But the build, you can rebuild us back to the way we were. It's the $6 million man project. Or in Canada, it would be what? 7.8 million. Thomas Hasel's in Vancouver. Atakubi's in Vancouver. Alistair Johnston, you're not getting him back unless you get to pay. And a lot of this also has to do with the salary cap. You want to try to bring in guys like Lucas McNaughton, Raheem Edwards, Joel Waterman, Ismail Kone, Mark Anthony Kay, Piet Choinière, Kyle Larin, Jonathan David, Alfonso Davies. You think Buchanan, Akinola, Ugbo, Corbianu, and Koleosho. You think legitimately, current squad plus recent call-ups, you think that they're just going to drop everything in their current employ and sit there and go, yeah, I think I'll go to Toronto. Team chasing after the wooden spoon. And I can tell you think about it like a college football coach. You can be a part of the rebuild. When you got a lot of players who are going to be looking at what's the paycheck, not necessarily the rebuild. Will you be able to make my life better with the contract from where I currently am and the playing time and all that kind of stuff? Can you make my life better? The salary cap cannot fit all of the folks that are there to bring them in as a part of the rebuild for Toronto FC. If you want to try to attract national team players to be a part of a rebuild, good luck. To be a part of a team right now that's next to last. Canada went 0-3 at the World Cup. 0-3. Coach of the women's team before taking the men's job in 2018, 2 bronze medals at the Olympics. But John Herdman, currently leader in the clubhouse, apparently, possibly, probably, maybe, allegedly, for Toronto FC. Sure. Why not? Do it. Toronto, do it. And see what happens. 10 o'clock, and it's time to read a promo. We've made it through hour number 1. And I think I finally turned the music off from one thing to another. So it's time to read a promo, and we'll get into hour number 2, where we got stuff to talk about. Yeah. 0-3. 0-3. And you changed your approach 3 separate times. You changed your approach 3 separate times. It's like, nope, not this one. Oh, let's go here. No. And Parzival, we'll go back and answer the question here coming up in just a little bit. But yeah, John Herdman, 0-3, front runner. He's that pissed right now. Hey, Bill, Bob Bradley's not there anymore. You think I could hop in? I'm interested. What does that say about Canada soccer right now on a national team level? That John Herdman, allegedly, possibly, probably, maybe, perhaps, is the front runner for the gig at TFC. Goes from the women's team to the men's team to TFC. And Bill Manning thinks that having John Herdman will be a drawing card to bring fans into the stands. Sure. Soccer Down Here brought to you by a Lemonize Service, odor-free, clean, fresh air, one place you need to go. It's a Lemonize Service, QR code over my left shoulder for those of you watching on Twitch, on Twitter, or on the SDH Facebook page. Deodorizing in closed spaces like houses, apartments, and condos, Lemonize has created a customized solution that eliminizes all organic odors, including those like pet cigarettes and food. Realtors and property managers use the Lemonize service to eliminate bad odors to help them sell or rent their homes that much faster. It's a turnkey process. Makes it easy to work with realtors and property managers, whatever that means. Sounds good. Kind of the environment we like that these days. Offering a green way to get rid of odors without any kind of toxic residue whatsoever, different than Febreze or other masking agents that you may have either under the sink or above you in the cupboard. Because when you reach under the sink or above you in the cupboard, then you spray the masking agent in the air. There's a reason they call it a masking agent, because you're just masking the odor. You're not attacking the problem, like our friends at Lemonize Service do with their proven scientific formula, either by the cubic foot or parts per million, to come up with a price that's affordable for you. Offering results in 24 hours or less. If you have any other questions, go to the website. This is where I grab my pen. Lemonize.com, but do us a favor here at SDH. After the .com, go /Atlanta, so they know what part of the world that you are addressing them from, so they can help you with your problem. Full homework assignment. ELIMINIZE.com /Atlanta. Lemonize.com /Atlanta. Rotor-free, clean, fresh air. Proud sponsors of everything SDH on a Tuesday. Man, there's just no slow fade with this stuff. All right. Getting back into stuff. Parzival, what made Portland part with their coach? Just win-loss record next to last. Not all that productive offensively. Frustrating season in Portland. Probably a combination of that and thinking that since Gio's in his 5th season, you might think the message is getting stale. Cycling out older players, younger players coming in. Transfers not necessarily working to the extent that you would like them to. So you have this mass gathering of stuff, and it gets to critical mass in Portland. I still think that Severese should have been given the opportunity to close out the season, considering what he has meant to that program ever since he got there. Bart, yeah, bam, 3rd time's the charm with Herdman. Bart, you can make up a new trophy for Toronto to win. Exactly. Let's see. We got to come up with a name for the trophy. And who's he going up against to sit there and present the trophy against? We're fighting for this trophy. We are. The opposing team comes in. Oh, there's a trophy on the line. What happens if the opposing team wins? Do they want that trophy? Do they take it home with them? Do they hoist it right there? Do they stand on the logo at BMO and go, we won this, whatever this is? Congratulations. Bam. The Toronto will win trophy, which they will lose. Parzival, talking Atlanta United. Also saw on Reddit that Doug said we're not looking to part with Gigi. When did that rumor start? It started to bubble up yesterday, but once again, remember, check your sources. In any kind of a situation like this, remember, the European window, you only have another 9 days. September 1st, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. 30 days has September, April, June, and November. All the rest have 31. 31, 11 days. You have 11 days left in the European window. There are some windows that are open a little longer. But in these situations, when like Reddit or somebody like that tells you something, go back the extra step or 2 or however many and sit there and say, okay, how many folks are sitting there and saying so-and-so should be transferred? Started, obviously, with Gigi's hot start that he's had here in Major League Soccer. Dude just got here. First off, dude just got here. He likes it here. He wanted to be challenged by Major League Soccer when he was at Celtic. And the choice was either Celtic or Urawa Red Diamonds out of the J-League. Celtic was kind of leaning toward the J-League. Gigi was leaning here. He wanted the challenge. So why? I ask you why, index finger raised into the air. Why would something happen this quickly where he goes back to Europe? Once again, this is you're in a window. Conversations like this will come up on social media. They will. But legitimately, and the same thing is occurring still with Thiago Almada. So 11 days left in the window. And depending on what you read, who you read, how many sources they have, Thiago Almada has said that he wants to leave in the winter. No real surprise, considering that has been kind of an aim/goal. But if, and this is a massive if, Rudyard Kipling ain't got nothing on this situation in the transfer window. If Gigi wants to go back to Europe to be closer to family. Great piece that Atlanta United Digital did, by the way, bringing some of his buddies from Greece over to see him in a match. Go back to Atlanta United socials and check that out. But if Gigi wants to go back to Europe for whatever reason, even though he just got here to Major League Soccer and wants to be challenged and wants to enjoy Major League Soccer, and he's doing a damn good job so far. If he wants to go back, and we have no evidence to support this from social media of any depth or field or depth of field. And Thiago wants to go challenge himself in the European theater, which was kind of part of the thought process anyway. I think you're looking at 30 and 15 as your starting points. Since we are now, like I said, you're getting toward the end of this window. You get through this window, sprint to the remainder of the season. Starting part of the discussion for Thiago Almada is 30. If the team wants full pass, and then you go down from there. If the team that you're interested in, with the discussions that we were seeing out of La Liga week and a half ago for percentage of the pass and less money, keep that in mind as well. But I think you're looking at 30 and 15 as your negotiating points. Considering what Gigi has been able to do scoring goals here in Major League Soccer, considering the interest in Thiago Almada, 30 and 15, I think, are the two numbers that you're staring at when this season is over. Unless someone comes in here in the final 11 days in the European window. True. And Tom, that is definitely a good question for Gigi, top 5 Greek spots. So we can follow in. We can draft off of his food choices. But right now, get through the season, get through this 11 days. Then you have Almada and Gigi. Like I said, I'm picking the Giacomakis material and putting it off to the side. The Almada stuff, we've known. We continue to talk through. We get that. 30 and 15 if you're interested in those two. But as always, for the remaining 11 days in this window, and we'll get into all of the gossip, rumor, and innuendo coming up in a bit. 11 days left in the European window. Check your sources. Go back a step or two. Follow along. Sit there and it's like, okay, this guy is saying this. How many followers, how many sources, where's the sourcing? If you can go back another step, if they're attributing it to somebody else, and if all of these different places are attributing it to one report, once again, just follow the breadcrumbs, but make sure that you check the numbers on the sourcing. So that way you're not going down a rabbit hole or something like that and going, well, so-and-so said X. And they're not just doing something wearing underoos in their mom's basement. So 11 days left in the window, and we'll keep an eye on all of that. I know that we've got to continue to talk about what's going on in Spain with the national team, because there is continued palm to forehead moments. We've also got player news involving Georgi Petrovic going to Chelsea. The Revs, I know that Shooter is probably somewhat angry about it, but Shooter has been very, very busy seeing players going outbound. 2 keepers worth about $26 million. One to Arsenal, who's now at Forest, and one who's heading to Chelsea. So Petrovic. Bogert said European interest. But like I said, he just got here. Unless something is he wants to go back immediately. You started at 15. That's what I'm staring at. But yeah, there's still some stuff going on with the Spanish national team. We wanted to get into that this morning. Dermot Corrigan, Luis Rubiales has not been able to brazen his way past criticism this time. His apology yesterday showed he still did not understand the seriousness of his acts, so his position as Federation president should be under threat. But it is good to know that all female athletes have to do is pick their fights. So Rubiales says what he says. He gives the apology. And Jenny Hermoso, yeah, it happened, but I didn't like it. But what could I do? Look at me. Rubiales, now 45, played professionally for 10 years as a defender, several inches taller than Hermoso, even in her boots. Footage from the dressing room afterwards. Celebrate the wedding. Rubiales with an arm around Hermoso as he announced a holiday to Ibiza, saying, there we will celebrate the wedding of Jenny and Luis Rubiales. Criticism of such scenes mounted both in Spain and internationally. The RFEF released a statement to Spanish-based news agency EFE, quoting Hermoso as saying she had no problem with what was a mutual, quote, a mutual gesture that was totally spontaneous due to the immense joy of winning a World Cup. Statement also had Hermoso saying, quote, there should be no more made of this gesture of friendship and gratitude, end quote. This was not accepted by many people in Spain, including the country's equality minister, Irene Montero. Montero on Twitter, quote, we shouldn't assume that kissing someone without their consent is something that happens. It's a form of sexual violence that we women suffer regularly and until now invisibly, and that we cannot normalize. It's a task for all of society. Consent must be central. Only yes means yes. Member of Parliament Adriana Lastra rejected any comparison with Spain keeper Iker Casillas kissing reporter Sarah Carbonero live on TV directly after the men won the 2010 World Cup. Casillas and Carbonero were a couple. Lastra on Sunday evening. What Rubiales did is not something small. It is pure sexism. We should not dismiss it or compare it with Iker and Sarah. Do not just laugh off these people who believe they have the right to grope women. He should have apologized and resigned already. Rubiales showed no intention of apologizing, never mind resigning when speaking that night on Spanish radio COPE. We do not pay any attention to idiots and stupid people. It was a peck between two friends celebrating something. The criticism, it's really all just nonsense from blankheads and dumbasses. These are just losers who did not know how to see the positive side. Viva España. We have the best players in the world, and that is what we should be talking about. With one friend, I celebrate with a kiss. With another, I giving her a hug and whatever else. On the same program, Hermoso herself was questioned about the reaction and was asked to agree with the presenter Juanma Castano that it was not so important. Hermoso, quote, it's just a small thing. Still in party mode. If people want to blow it up, they will for sure. I won't be making more of it. Hermoso may have preferred not to have talked about the incident. Many people back home who believed it needed more attention. Culture and Sport Minister Miquel Iceta went forward. Iceta suggested an apology at the very least would be required. Just after the final whistle, still in the VIP seats, right along Queen Letizia and her 16-year-old daughter, Sophia, TV pictures showed Rubiales grabbing his crotch in a most undignified way as he celebrated the win. Continues to go through, and they talked about the protest and all these other kinds of things. There was one other tie that I wanted to get into as this continues to develop. And I want to get the information correct. Pedro Sanchez Acting president of the government on the behavior of Luis Rubiales in the final. Quote, what we saw was an unacceptable gesture. Apologies have not been enough. They are not suitable. Mr. Rubiales has to keep taking steps. So you get that from the interim head of the government. Megan Johnson at TSN from Relevo. Rubiales apparently begged Jenny Hermoso to appear together in the apology video. Jorge Vilda also tried to mediate with players' relatives, and she refused. So Relevo, and this is translated from Natalia Torrent. Flight from Sydney to Doha, where the expedition made a stopover before heading to Madrid. RFEF was already aware of Rubiales' gestures in the final, and the insults who criticized him had gone around the world, so he started the machinery. Between sponsors, family members, the staff, the board of directors, and the 23 players, the president, Luis Rubiales, begged Jenny Hermoso to go out with him in a video that they would record at the Doha airport, apologizing and explaining what had happened at the awards ceremony. And that's the video that was released yesterday, the 2-minute apology. With an approach in which he assured him of the enormous affection he has for his family, he acknowledged his position was at stake and that he needed to support, but the soccer player refused. Hermoso just wants to talk about the title he got. Despite the pressure, whoever has to explain or apologize, she claimed, according to several witnesses, to do so, she certainly wasn't the person. Now it is better understood quote, it happened without bad faith on both sides, end quote, that the president pronounced in the video released by the Federation, and in which, despite his attempts, he finally appeared alone. As if the player, who has declined to rule on this issue on all occasions, she had anything to do with it. As Relevo has been able to confirm by another source, she did not know that the RFEF president would take her head to kiss her on the lips at the medal ceremony. She found it in everything that she said to her colleagues and fans on Instagram direct after winning the final in the locker room is what will come out of her mouth. I didn't like it, but what to do? Family members of all the international players, media directors, representatives, and sports institutions, sponsors, federation personnel, and the staff with the champs were traveling on the plane back to Spain. More than 300 people that the RFEF picked up on arrival at Barajas, and 5 buses in the direction of the Principe Pio celebration. Many of them were able to attend the president's request to Jenny, despite the fact he tried to do so as discreetly as possible. The statements released by the RFEF are not from Jenny Hermoso. That's another thing that Relevo is posting. The quotation mark attributed to the soccer player said, "It has been a totally spontaneous mutual gesture due to the immense joy that winning a World Cup brings. President and I have a great relationship. His behavior with all of us has been of 10, and it was a natural gesture of affection and gratitude. You cannot go overboard with a gesture of friendship and gratitude. We won a World Cup, and we're not going to deviate from what's important," end quote. Relevo is saying the words were written by the Federation's communication department and disseminated to the media quickly, but she had not spoken, meaning Hermoso had not spoken in that regard. Family of the soccer player closed ranks around the decision. Mother appeared on TV, asked about the inappropriate behavior, quoting the mom, "You have to see that they're world champions. The rest is not important." But after that, no family member wanted to speak to the media. At the airport, the director of integrity of the RFEF, not to be seen, nothing public in a words sense, asked the driver to stop to greet the fans from inside the bus. The president was not seen. So you've got that. Images have gone around the world. Now this is Relevo wrapping it up. Now it'll be the government that has to move the token. At the moment, Yolanda Diaz, acting vice president, has assured that excuses are not useful for her and that the sports law and the protocols of the federation itself must be complied with. That's why she's asked for the resignation. So, from Relevo, translated, Rubiales begs Jenny Hermoso to appear in the apology video that we saw outside the airport. She refused. Jorge Vilda also tried to mediate with the players' relatives. Refused. Torrente, by the way, once again, works at Relevo. And Relevo, 193,000 followers on the X. So that's your Spain update. Morning, Alex. So there you go. Yeah, Spain is going to continue to be a story in and of itself for the wrong reasons. Wrong stuff going on right now in Spain. It hasn't stopped. And sadly, it does not appear that it's going to slow down anytime soon. So then your required reading would be the Dermot Corrigan story at The Athletic and anything from Spain moving forward. So like I said, we'll keep an eye on that. Gossip, rumor, and innuendo. Once again, as I said, we mentioned that we're like 11 days away from the window closing in Europe. And here's what we know, or at least we think we know. Manchester City have agreed to personal terms with Belgian winger Jeremy Doku on a long-term deal after Rennes accepted an offer of 60 million euro. Looks like it's 55 million pounds by the time they're done. West Ham agreed an 85 million pound deal to sell Lucas Paquetá to Manchester City before the transfer deal collapsed because he's being investigated for potential betting rule breaches. That's the 4-letter paper. We thought it was 65 initially, but apparently it's up to 85 according to the 4-letter paper. But Paquetá is not moving. Bayern Munich and Liverpool have shown interest in Calvin Phillips. Brighton close to completing the 25 million pound signing of Lille midfielder Carlos Baleba. West Ham have bid 35 million for Dominic Solanke from Bournemouth. PSG still hope they can convince Mbappe to extend his contract after he met with officials from the club's Qatari ownership group. West Ham in talks over signing Sevilla striker Youssef En-Nesyri. Arsenal have no intention of selling Gabriel, despite interest from Al Ittihad. Once again, that's from Fabrizio Romano. Fulham face competition from Everton and Nottingham Forest for Callum Hudson-Odoi. Chelsea remain in talks with Arsenal over signing Valérien Balogun, who's agreed to personal terms. Target number was around 50 million. We'll see what happens. Fulham ready to challenge Tottenham for the signing of a Nigerian striker Gift Orban, who's at Ghent. Lazio have reopened negotiations with Spurs over Hugo Lloris. Spurs also preparing a bid for Nordsjælland's forward Ernest Nuama, who is 19, who's also wanted by West Ham, Burnley, and Brighton. Rennes keen on securing a return for Naïef Aguerd from West Ham, who signed him from the French side in June of 2022. Aguerd got a red card, so he'll be out for 1, if not 3, so there might be some time for Rennes to negotiate. Villa have expressed an interest in Arsenal's 21-year-old Portuguese left-back Nuno Tavares. Ireland striker Evan Ferguson, 18, is on Arsenal's radar for next summer, with Spurs put off by Brighton's 100 million pound valuation. That'll do it. Brentford have made inquiries about Leeds' Luis Sinisterra. Manchester City close to agreeing to new contracts for Bernardo Silva and Kyle Walker. Liverpool are awaiting the outcome of discussions between Bayern Munich's Netherlands midfielder Ryan Gravenberch and manager Thomas Tuchel. United are keen to sign a midfielder and a keeper before the transfer deadline, but have to trim their squad first. Mason Greenwood set to look for offers in Turkey or Italy after leaving Manchester United following the internal investigation. That's from the 4-letter paper. Take that information at your own peril. Manchester United have agreed to sell Academy grad Noam Emeron, 20, to Groningen. And Serena Wiegman will be in the frame to become coach of the Netherlands men's team when the post becomes available. Wiegman, the Dutch football chiefs, this is from Ben Rumsby and Tom Morgan at The Telegraph. Dutch football chiefs have said privately that Wiegman would make a short list of candidates for the men's job. Dutch footballing chiefs have insisted privately for months that the Lionesses' acclaimed manager would be certain to at least make a short list of candidates. Her candidacy is now seen as stronger than ever after her fourth straight major women's international final. Never before has a leading football federation or top club offered a men's team management job to a woman. Remember, Wiegman said in her post-match presser, she has no plans to leave her role with England. However, this is quoting the Telegraph, after a torrid 2023 in which the Netherlands men's side suffered 3 defeats in 4 matches, Ronald Koeman is under pressure to turn form around in his second spell in the gig. Wiegman's under contract with England until after Euro 2025. FA Chief Executive Mark Bullingham said last week Wiegman could do, quote, anything she wants in football. As he insisted, he was open to considering a woman to succeed Gareth Southgate. Also been touted, obviously, we've talked about it, as a successor to Vlatko. However, a move by the KNVB to secure Wiegman for a second time may prove even more of an allure for the former defensive midfielder who was born in Hague. Secured a Euros title and a World Cup during her tenure in charge of the Netherlands women's team. Bullingham said last Thursday the governing body would reject any approaches for Wiegman, adding that the FA would hope Wiegman would stay in charge for a very long time, and now she's insisted she's staying put. Bullingham also faced questions about the gap between Wiegman's reported annual salary of around £400,000 and Gareth Southgate's reported £6 million annual wage. Bullingham said he hopes that in the long term, both national team coaches will be paid the same, but, quote, he said the market for each position was not there yet. Bullingham said he hopes that in the long term, both national team head coaches will be paid the same, but he said the market for each position was not there yet. Wiegman, who joined England in 2021, lost her first competitive game in charge on Sunday. Has repeatedly expressed satisfaction in her job with the Lionesses. Another option for the Dutch woman would be to manage Great Britain at the next summer's Olympics in Paris if qualification can be secured. Wiegman to the men's side. That would be very, very interesting. Also, Chelsea's in a race against time to offload Romelu Lukaku as Juve want playing hardball where Dusan Vlahovic is concerned. Interest in Lukaku is thin, according to Matt Law at the Telegraph. Juve will only sanction a deal if they get Vlahovic off the wage bill. Lukaku is training with Chelsea's U21s. Hasn't even spoken to head coach Mauricio Pochettino, having reiterated his desire to leave Stamford Bridge after returning from a season on loan at Inter Milan. Having seen Lukaku reject a huge offer to join Al Hilal early in the window, Chelsea are currently still refusing to allow Lukaku to leave the club on loan for a second successive summer, which has severely cut down his options with just a week over the window. Juve is currently the only club actively keen on Lukaku. Chelsea have already rejected 2 proposals from Juve to pay a fee for Vlahovic and send Lukaku in the opposite direction. First proposal was for Juve to get 42 and Lukaku for Vlahovic, while the second was 30 million plus Lukaku. Vlahovic believed to be earning around $7 million a year after tax at Juve, which is due to increase closer to 10, significantly more than Chelsea would be prepared to pay. Chelsea rejected 2 offers from Inter of 23 and 26 million before the Champions League finalists ended their interest after finding out that he himself had opened the door to move to Juve. Hello, Juve. I'd like to come and play. I'd like to come and play at Juve. Is that cool? Mr. Lukaku, aren't you currently involved with your time at Inter Milan? That's cool and all, but I really want to come play at Juve. Have you told them this? No, I really want to come play at Juve. Do you not understand when you read the room a certain way that things could not go well? Inter and Juve do not like each other. Nick is far better served at the angst, anger, and relationships with these two. But Inter and Juve do not like each other. They do not like each other. So what do? You decide that you're going to try and sit there and go from one team to a mortal enemy. Inter to Juve. I don't know if this is like Alabama to Auburn. Might be like Auburn to Georgia or something like that. Like I said, Nick is far better at gauging the involvement. But you don't do that. Romelu Lukaku did that, and you're now seeing what's going on. They don't like that. They don't. Lukaku's remained adamant and he doesn't want to move to Saudi Arabia, or Chelsea wanted to send him in that Al Hilal deal. But remember, Al Hilal have dropped a lot of coin on bringing in Neymar. And they signed Petrovic for $14 million from the Revs. Chelsea's looks like they're going to try and sign one more offensive player by the end of the window. Chukwuemeka's surgery on his knee will keep him out for 6 weeks. And it only has increased the need for Chelsea to bring in reinforcements since they couldn't bring in Michael Olise from Crystal Palace. They've also discussed sending players in the opposite direction to try to bring Brennan Johnson over from Nottingham Forest. Price tag anywhere from, say, 40 to 50. That's what they're staring at anyway. But so far, Nottingham Forest have said no. Spurs also interested, weighing up a cash plus player bid for Brennan Johnson also. Chelsea admirers of Folarin Balogun. We talked about that. Balogun also shares an agent with Romeo Lavia, who Chelsea signed last week from Southampton. Lewis Hall completed his loan move from Chelsea to Newcastle, and that's going to become permanent at the end of the season. So you've got all of that stuff going on. Pep Guardiola, by the way, he's going to be out until after the international break. Back surgery. Emergency back surgery for Pep Guardiola. Out of fixtures against Sheffield United and Fulham. Traveled to Barcelona after suffering with the long-standing issue and went under the knife earlier today. Juan Malillo is going to be taking charge in the absence. Undergone a routine operation on a back problem. Quoting the team, he's been suffering with severe back pain for some time lately. Flew out to Barcelona for emergency surgery performed by Dr. Mireia Ilueca. Surgery was a success. Pep will now recover and rehabilitate in Barcelona. Expected to return after the forthcoming international break. Everyone at Manchester City wishes Pep a speedy recovery and look forward to seeing him back in Manchester soon. So there's the Pep Guardiola update. Insert the one-liner about Pep putting all these teams and programs on his back. Chukwuemeka is supposed to be out for about 6 weeks, by the way. Mason Greenwood, once again, no future at Manchester United, Turkey, and Italy. Bayern want $22 million if they're going to sign Gravenberch to Liverpool or Manchester United. Benjamin Pavard was linked with United, instead will end up at Inter Milan. All of this search. 11 days left in the window. 11 days. 11 days left in the window. Arsenal won yesterday, 1-0. And catching up with Bart Keeler at halftime. By the way, Bart, very, very cool stuff. I didn't know that the one jersey you got me was a parlay kit. I'm going to have to really take care of it. So Lewis Hall on loan, obligatory £28 million purchase weeks after signing a new 6-year deal at Chelsea, sent to Newcastle. Yassine Ayari from Brighton to Coventry City, Flynn Downs, West Ham to Southampton. Samuel Amorodion, $5.1 million. Athletic are paying a €6 million release clause for the teenager. Serginho Dest went on loan yesterday. Barcelona to PSV Eindhoven. Eredivisie on loan with a €10 million option to buy. So keep an eye on all of that. That's your most of your transfer news. We'll get into the news that is too fit to print and find in other places. A lot of other questions are out there. And now officially, the move by Manchester City chasing after Lucas Paquetá, that is now off. OFF off. Small chance on Friday morning the transfer could go ahead. Still no. Now there's no prospect of that even happening. Players due to be interviewed. 4 years left on his West Ham deal. 4 years left on the deal. Paquetá set to be interviewed by the FA as a part of their investigation. He denies any wrongdoing. Frosinone signed Republic of Ireland international Justin Farajai from Shamrock Rovers, 18 years old midfielder. Spent time on trials at Spurs, Hamburg, and Sampdoria. Other lower division stuff, Nikola Jokic, the 19-year-old, goes to Alex Neil's side from Serbia, so 19-year-old helping them out. Burnley signed 24-year-old center back Hans Delcroix from Anderlecht. This would make sense with Vincent Kompany's news and moves. Rated his former side for the defender, signed on an undisclosed fee. Delcroix said, I think Monday or Tuesday last week, Burnley was interested in me. It went really quick. Had a phone call with Vincent Kompany. It's good that he calls his coach Vinny. Saturday, I was already on the plane, so it went very quick. It was a very busy few days. I'm happy to be here now. So, Vinny. Brad Friedel says that Georgi Petrovic will be a future Chelsea number 1 keeper. Backs him to be the club's future number 1. I know that next time that Jared's on, we've got to talk about Ange Postecoglou and what we're seeing so far from Spurs. I anticipate that they are being driven crazy, meaning Spurs fans. And Spurs fans, feel free to add to this conversation. That Ange is probably going to drive you crazy by the time the season's over. Note from Mike Conti, by the way, this morning. Nashville will not have Taylor Washington and Fafaf Pico. Red yellow card accumulation after both were sent off in their last league match. So Washington and Fafa Pico. So you won't have Fafa coming in off the bench for the final 30. No Taylor Washington, no Fafa Pico for the match involving Atlanta and Nashville. Doku is now £55.5 million, by the way, Man City to Rennes. Petrovic is going to have a Chelsea medical this week ahead of the £14 million move. Chelsea play Luton Town Friday night. Luton Town, by the way, Kenilworth Road still undergoing renovations. That's why you had a postponement of a home match this past week, because it's still being renovated and upgraded. So we will see what is going on there with that and how long that's supposed to be. They said it was supposed to be for the first 2 matches, but we'll continue to see. But yeah, Petrovic, Chelsea medical this week ahead of a £14 million move from Major League Soccer. 23-year-old will have to be registered by midday Thursday to be available for the game at Stamford Bridge. And it looks, according to Sky, looks difficult but not impossible. Work permits and visas allowed that have to be figured out. Brighton switching their focus to Arsenal's Albert Sambi Lokonga as they search for a midfielder. Remember, we were discussing Carlos Baleba. Looks like negotiations have become difficult to complete the deal. De Zerbi wants to sign a midfielder before the window closes following the departure of Moises Caicedo. Burnley had been in discussions with Arsenal over a loan with an option to buy for Lokonga, but it looks like Brighton, no active talks with Burnley over the signing of the Belgian, so we'll see. We mentioned Hugo Lloris. Ryan Fraser from Newcastle. Empoli are interested in him, according to Sky Italy. Napoli and Celta Vigo in contact again to discuss the issues of Gabri Vega. Conversation still ongoing, according to Fabrizio Romano. It's not quite a here we go as of yet. So you've got all of that going on. Let's see, transfer headlines. Let me see if we can get into the papers before we get into other things from our friends at Soccer America and all that for the final 20 minutes of the show. Anything that else is on your guys' minds? Bam, 42nd minute. Al-Ittihad Al-Shabaab Al-Khalil, currently 0-0. Okay. I'll get to that in just a second. We mentioned Lucas Paquetá avoiding the 3 and the 4-letter papers, as we always do. Chelsea holding out for $8 million for Callum Hudson-Odoi, now receiving interest from Forest, Everton, and Fulham. Eric Ten Hag from the Daily Mirror facing calls to remove the Manchester United captaincy from Bruno Fernandes after his rant against referee Michael Oliver following the defeat at Tottenham. We'll get into that in just a second. Doku's impending arrival at Manchester City could make it more likely Cole Palmer leaves the Premier League champs this summer. There's a lot of Premier League clubs waiting to make an offer for the England U21. Remember, we had Pep Guardiola discussing Cole Palmer, that it was either going to be a stay or a sale, not a loan, if anything was going to happen. He's either going to stay or he's going to be sold. There would be no loan with Cole Palmer. So we'll see what happens there. A daily record, Celtic fear being without CCV for an extended period because of an injury suffered against Aberdeen earlier this month. Neil Lennon pleased that Brendan Rodgers has conceded he needs to bring in some experienced heads to the club after spending money on younger players so far this summer. PSV Eindhoven manager Peter Bosz talking up summer signing Malik Tillman as the forward prepares for a return to Rangers this week in Champions League. And Crystal Palace have brought in talented Airdrie teenager Justin Devaney into their U21 system. Celtic could have to pony up to $4 million to bring in Matthias Kvistgarden. They mentioned Mark Warburton. John McGinn has warned his Villa teammates to expect a torrid tea-time clash at Easter Road. And Alfredo Morelos' agent has confirmed there are still several clubs interested in his client this summer. So we'll keep an eye on all of that. So what did Bruno Fernandes say about Michael Oliver? From the Mirror, yes, I accept all the cookies. Unhappy when United was not awarded a penalty after Garnacho's effort struck the arm of Christian Romero. Incident was reviewed by VAR, no action taken, as Michael Oliver waved to play to continue. But after the match, Fernandes was incensed United should have been given a penalty. He admitted, quote, "I want to see if John Moss also comes to apologize to our dressing room like they said he did to the manager of Wolves." Fernandes has been slammed by some for his comments, as folks are really mad. Chris Sutton, former Premier League star, has decided to weigh in on the debate, claiming Fernandes shouldn't be United's skipper just a month after he replaced Harry Maguire. Quote, "Absolutely not. The referee wasn't to blame," according to Sutton. Bruno Fernandes first and foremost needs to sort himself out, his team out, before looking at referees and their decisions. Bruno Fernandes, for me, shouldn't be captain of Manchester United. Absolutely not. He's not a leader. That basically sums him up. It's not about taking responsibility as captain, and the bottom line is the first two performances of the season for Manchester United, they've looked like a testimonial team, like a team that is still stuck in preseason, and he needs to turn up and show better leadership qualities, not blaming the referee. Not blaming the referees. So Bruno Fernandes is catching hell from Chris Sutton. My time in the Premier League does not go back to the Chris Sutton era. So I had to look up who Chris Sutton was. I had to look it up. Absolutely had to look it up. A couple of other notes from the weekend in Major League Soccer. We still haven't talked about Major League Soccer on the whole, so we got to talk about that. St. Louis City, so all caps signed homegrown midfielder Tyson Pierce to a deal. 16-year-old U.S. Youth International finished 2023 with their MLS Next Pro team, all caps 2, under contract with the first team through 27 with an option for 28. Kevon Lambert signed from Phoenix Rising, and he'll be a part of things with RSL. Seattle signed midfielder Paul Rothrock. You might have seen him on the left-hand side for Seattle in the match against Atlanta United. Signed for the remainder of the 23 season, options for 24 and 25. Was with Tacoma Defiance following a 2-year stint with Toronto FC2. 5 assists in 23, along with 3 goals. Scored 3 goals in 3 first-team appearances earlier this year via short-term agreements. In 2 Open Cup matches, scored the game-winning goal against Houston Dynamo. So you'll remember that with Paul Rothrock, that is the 24-year-old who played at Notre Dame and Georgetown, helping Georgetown to their first championship back in 2019. 64th overall in the 2021 Super Draft. Over the weekend in Major League Soccer, going over what happened, other than having all of the matches postponed because of all of the weather. Hell is real, and it was for Cincinnati. Columbus winning that one 3-0. Aiden Morris, Cucho, Jason Russell-Rowe. Continuing to my point about why would Jason Russell-Rowe want anything to do with Toronto FC if John Herdman was in charge. Red Bulls knocked off DC 1-0. Loons beat NYC 2-0. Montreal and Toronto at BMO was the standard amount of Canadian chaos that we would have anticipated. 3-2 final there. And in that match, Bernadeschi had a brace. Petretta, red card in the 77th. And so in a match that was back and forth, Chouanier scores in the 18th minute to make it 1-0. Mabika, 25th minute OG. And so that's 2 on the board. Bernadeschi scores at 66. Chouanier scores at 79 after the Petretta red. 3-1 at that point. Bernadeschi scores at 90 plus 4 to make it 3-2. So not a surprise, but that was the chaos that we would see at BMO. Orlando beat Chicago at Soldier Field by the final of 3-1. We'll go over the standings in a bit. Pineda scores in the 47th. Everything happens in the second half. Chicago had a 1-0 lead, then gave up 3. Cartagena, Angulo, and Facundo Torres score 3 goals in 18 minutes. Orlando beat Chicago in Chicago 3-1. And then the match that we talked about yesterday briefly, 5 on the board for Houston, which ends up getting Portland's Gio Savarese sacked 5-0. And then and you mentioned, and this was something that we mentioned yesterday that I wanted to kind of get into today, and we'll get into it for the remainder of the week. Who else is on the hot seat? Because now that Savarese's gone, and they decided not to let him sit for the end of the year and then come up with a coach then and there, St. Louis put 6 on Austin. 6. Houston put 5 on Portland. St. Louis, all caps, put 6 on Austin. Brace for Gioacchini. Brace for Adeniran. Tim Parker scored an absolute crushing goal in the 22nd minute. And then Ostrak scores in the 88th. Driussi scores on a PK. Will Bruin scores at 87. Rigoni at 90+1. So, I mean, the game itself was nuts until about 20 to go or 15 to go. 15 to go. Really 10. Because Parker scores, Gioacchini's got a brace, and it's 3-0. Driussi scores a PK to make it 3-1. Adeniran scores to make it 4-1. Then you end up with 4 goals in 8 minutes to finish things up. They were just like, man, I want to get out of here. So let's just see what happens. You cranked it up to 11. You had 4 goals in the final 8 minutes. Bruin, Ostrak, Rigoni, Adeniran. 2 on each side in the final 8 minutes. But what is going on in Austin? I know that Nico had mentioned Diego Fagundes not being a part of the discussion, but it is just crazy right now in Austin, Texas. And then San Jose beats Vancouver by the final of 1-0 after it's going on simultaneously with the Atlanta match. But as things stand right now in the conference, in the East, Cincinnati's 8 points clear of New England. Then you have 2 points separating 5 teams in the Eastern Conference right now. And the 6 and the 7 play this weekend in Atlanta, full house. 6 and 7, both at 38 points. Philadelphia's at 40. They got 1 more win than Orlando. Columbus is at 39. Nashville's got 1 more win than Atlanta. Nashville's got 1 more win than Atlanta. Montreal's at 32. So there's a 6-point cushion right now. 6-point cushion between 6, 7, 8, and 9. Montreal has 2 more wins than Chicago. That's why they're in 8th. Chicago's in 9th with a record of 8, 8, and 8. DC's below the playoff bar at 30 points. Red Bulls are at 29. Then you've got more spacing. Charlotte's at 26. NYC's at 26. Charlotte's got 1 more win. Toronto, 19 points in 25 matches. 3-12 and 10. 20 goals in 25 matches this year for Toronto. With all that firepower they have, that does not care, frankly, about much. 0-8 and 4 away from home this year, Toronto. Miami is still in the wooden spoon, but I wouldn't anticipate that being there for long. 5-14 and 3, but they've got other things that they got to focus on, like tomorrow and Open Cup semifinal in Cincinnati. 18 points for Miami in 22 matches at 5-14 and 3. That's before the Barca boys came in. So we'll see what happens for the remaining matches of the schedule. I don't see him leaving either, Niall. I really don't. Like I said, he's happy he's here. He's doing well here. Why would you just be here and then go back? Like I said, unless he really wants to go back and he's going to make generational money and $15 million and maybe up. That's about it. In the West, with all the chaos, St. Louis is still on top, but it's because everybody else is beating themselves up underneath them. St. Louis, 7 points clear. That early start, that early hot start they got has been serving them well. LAFC, points per game average, and also ahead on goal difference. Same number of wins as RSL at 37 points. 4 teams separated by 2 points, 2 through 5. Seattle's 4th at 36. San Jose's 5th at 35. Then Houston, identical record with Austin, 9, 10, and 5, ahead on goal difference. Vancouver's at 31 points. Identical record to Minnesota, ahead on goal difference by 7. +5 to -2. But then, once again, you've got 5 teams separated by 2 points, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 in the West. Houston, Austin, Vancouver, Minnesota, north of the playoff bar. Dallas at 30 points. Then there's space. Kansas City and Portland. Kansas City's ahead. They have the same number of wins, but ahead on goal difference. Portland's played 1 less match. LAG's at 22 points. They're bringing in 37-year-old Billy Sharp to help things out offensively off the bench. You could bring in Freeze under their current Freeze. Frees, Freze. So that's why they could bring in Billy Sharp on a free from Sheffield United at the age of 37. So we'll see how much he has in the tank at 37. And then Colorado, 19 points, 3-10 and 10. If it wasn't for William Yarborough, it'd be worse. 1-4 and 7 at home. They're better on the road than they are at home. 2-6 and 3 away from the Prairie Dogs. 1-4 and 7 at home this year. 3-10 and 10, Colorado. So it is still a bit of a race for the wooden spoon with Toronto, Messi and friends, and Colorado. So that's what you're looking at there when it comes to Major League Soccer. Christian Pulisic, and I know that Neil's that Nick's ears are burning. Christian Pulisic had a goal and an assist in his Serie A debut with Inter Milan. Last club goal came in a 3-0 win over Wolves in October of 2022 for Chelsea. Sold him to Inter for a transfer fee of $22 million. 2-0 win over Bologna in the Serie A debut for AC Milan. Joined Chelsea from Dortmund for $73 million. Played 10 games in their UEFA Champions League winning campaign, 4 starts, scored an assist in the semifinals over Real Madrid. 813 minutes last year in the Premier League. Least amount of playing time since his first year as a pro, 2016-17 at Borussia Dortmund. 11th minute. Chip to Giroud. 10 minutes later, back and forth with Giroud. Goal scored. So Christian Pulisic, goal and an assist for AC Milan. I'm just waiting for Nick to come charging in. National Soccer Hall of Fame announced their candidates for the class of 2024. There's a lot of them. 174 names on the list. The screening committees are going to narrow the player, veteran, and builder ballots before they and other members of the voting committee vote on the final ballot to elect a maximum of 6 new Hall of Fame members. That's a problem. Players on the list: Beckerman, Laurie Chalupny, Ricardo Clark, Dwayne De Rosario. Mo Adu is on the ballot initially. Brad Evans, Benny Feilhaber, Thierry Henry, who's going to work for the national team in the U21s until 2025. Tim Howard's on his first year. Eddie Johnson is in his first year. Jermaine Jones, Showery Joseph, Robbie Keane, Lori Lindsay, Gucci Onyewu, Michael Parkhurst, Nick Raimondo, Cat Reddick Whitehill. And there are some that are in their first years of eligibility. Narrow the 40-player list to a 20-person final ballot for the 2024 selection. Builders. Dick Cecil. And if Dick Cecil does not get in, there's a serious problem. We lost Dick Cecil at the age of 88, one of the true pioneers of the sport. And next time Jason's on, I want to ask about Dick Cecil, because Jason said some very, very nice things about Dick Cecil on the X. And it's very few folks get the chance to kind of, hang out readily with like legends and stuff. Dick Cecil is a soccer legend. A soccer legend. And if Dick Cecil, as a builder, does not get into the Hall of Fame, something is seriously wrong. By the way, Atlanta United has released their Atlanta Influences Everything kit. Goody Mob is up and running with the ATL kit. I think it's safe to say that Goody Mob might be seen at the Atlanta match on Saturday. So the video is out, and the elements that we have seen in the past, they are there. So the video is out, the 404 kit is out, and a lot of us are probably going to be spending a lot of money on the 404 kit. But if Dick Cecil is not in this ballot as a builder and is in the Hall of Fame as a builder, something is seriously wrong. Clark Hunt, Robert Kraft, Tim Leiweke, Francisco Marcos, Nick Sakevich. Builders are considered in 3 categories: refs, coaches, contributors. Based on the builder rotation established in 2020, only contributors will be considered for the 2024 builder ballot. Builder screening committee will narrow the list of 38 down to 4. Dick Cecil better damn well be on it. Veterans. And there's 96 veterans, and they're going to narrow 96 down to 10. Good luck on that. Wade Barrett, not that Wade Barrett. Beckham, Berhalter, George Best, Chico Borja, David Bursich, Brian Ching, first year on the ballot, Teofilo Cubillas, Eddie Gavin, first year on the ballot, Kevin Hartman, first year on the ballot, Frankie Haydick, Angela Huclas, Dominic Kinnear, Karofsky, Klein, Klopas, Kreis, Pablo Mastroeni, first year on the ballot, Mathis, Shep Messing, Heather Mitz, Kaiser Motong. There's another under the radar pick that shouldn't be under the radar. Ben Olson, Pat Onstad, Leslie Osborne in her first year, Steve Ralston, Ante Razov, Tiffany Roberts, Tony Sane, Greg Vanny, Tisha Venturini Hoke, Allie Wagner, Roy Wegerle, Josh Wolf. Good luck trimming 96 down to 10. Damn, not a fan of the 404 kit. So if those of you in the Discord would please give Bam backstory on the kit. Bam's system just updated. Al Ittihad 2-1 over Al Khalil at the half. First game of the Twitch pitch in the Discord. Emilio, I get the whole transfer madness every window, but a problem I see in worldwide soccer is that there's no desire for some roster stability. Not used to that model. I know. We're in baseball. We're used to having, Emilio, like with the Mets, we're used to having like an Ed Crane pool. We're used to having like a Tom Seaver. The only thing that, contributed to players being able to move around was Curt Flood. And once Curt Flood declared free agency, 69-70, then things did change. Howard Johnson, Mookie Wilson, all the Yankees guys that stayed forever. If you're part of a winning culture, and in baseball, say, the professional baseball leagues, you would go to maybe Japan, but that's it. In soccer, because the game is such a worldwide game, if you're having success and it's a worldwide audience it's not just a U.S. audience, it's a worldwide audience. And so when you have all of these folks that are interested in you, then it's both honoring and humbling, and there's a lot of pressure that's attached to it too, because it's not just a game that is a United States game. And since, let's say baseball, in the United States, there's only, 30, 32 places you can go, or you can go play in the minors, in AAA or whatever. But since it's a worldwide thing, the opportunity to ply your trade in country A, country B, continent here, continent there, it gives that availability to you. And so and I think that's been a part of the growth and the learning of the game here in the United States, is that as the U.S. continues to grow as a soccer power and a place for talent, then the world is going to be interested. The world's going to come to you. The world hasn't been coming to you because you have been buying from the world. Now that you're developing talent, then the economics shift a little bit. And I think that the economics will continue to shift where United States talent will be like what we've seen from Chelsea, 14 million here, 11, 12 million here. Talent that is either grown here or cured here and improved here gets to move on. So it's all you're a grande. What you want to be is a grande. You want to be known across the planet as a player, and I mean that in the sense of financials and being competitive and being a developer of talent and all those kinds of things. All those different aspects on the world stage. In baseball, when we were growing up, Emilio, it was just Major League Baseball, and that's it. Here with soccer, it is around the world, and you are part of an around the world party and growth and development and big businesses. Yeah. NFL, NHL, pretty stable. Pro cycling, pretty volatile. Unless you are, a true talent that can dictate, I want to stay here, I want to do this, I want to do this. Austin Matthews, it looks like it's going to be 4 years under discussion for 52. That's blowing the curve. But yeah, now that the American soccer landscape is being viewed on the world stage, that's why you're getting all of this different interest. And that's why you've got to develop internally and be aware financially about what you can do to bring players in from the outside to continue to help you grow. So it is a twofold process. And as we've talked about in Major League Soccer, teams will go about things different ways. Some teams will buy the expensive talent and try to figure out ways to win titles. In some places, like with Messi and friends, right now, that's worked once. Probably going to work twice. But it's only a short-term fix. Their MLS Next Pro team is last in the Eastern Conference. They have chosen in Fort Lauderdale to build for the now through high-priced talent and a couple of well-placed younger players like Kromoski and such. But they've got a lot of development that they've got to do, the MLS Next Pro level and the academy level, before they can be building from within in addition to bringing in the high-priced talent from over the top. You're looking for those U22s. You're looking for those folks. Your development in Next Pro right now is suffering. But you're bringing in the younger talent, and you're bringing in the expensive talent. Messi and friends have chosen to do it that way. Philadelphia chooses to do it through the academies and then bring in the player that I think their highest transfer is $2.5 million. That's how they choose to do it. Dallas, the same way. How do you reinvest, though, once you send talent on? That's another question that's entirely attached to it. There are different ways to go about it. Who will be the last player to play for only one club? Wow. That's a good question, Bam. That really is a good question. That is a very good question. Do I even want to know, since Bam has provided the link to the 404 kit, how much it is? $9 gazillion. Is that true? You use the promo code 20MLS, you get 20% off. Replica kit, $100. Authentic jersey, $150. Personalized for $195. I get it. No, I mean, I understand it. I'm for it. I like that. I don't know how many times I would wear it because I'd probably spill something on it, but I would definitely add it to my collection. I'm not paying $99 for it, though. Like I said, that there are certain things I have to do that are more important than $99 for a soccer jersey at the moment, like pay credit cards and car insurance and phones and things like that. But no, if I had that kind of disposable income, I probably would pick up the 404 kit as a part of it. So, new kit. We'll talk about that tomorrow. Would you buy it? Would you buy the 404 kit? That'll be opening kickoff tomorrow. Brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee. So would you buy the 404 kit? That'll be our lead question. On today, on the tube, Soccer for TV, BN has Libertadores and Sudamericana tonight at 6 and 8:30. BN and Espanol is on Fanatis, fntz.co/soccer down here. Helps out the network, helps out the show. and helps out them as well. And you get all the BNs, you get the Brasileiro, you get Gold TV, you get Teise, all of those for the fans, CDO, all those. You get that on Fanatis. A lot of live stuff. Boulevard Internacional Corinthians and Estudiantes tonight. Bien en Español simulcast. FS1 has Liga MX at 11 o'clock, Juarez and Pumas. Central American Cup is on FS2, CD Foz and Olympia at 10 o'clock. Fox Deportes simulcasting the 11 o'clock match. Tuda Ine and Universo have matches at 9. Tuda Ine, Mazatlan, Puebla, 9 o'clock, Guadalajara, Tijuana. Central American Cup is on Fox Soccer Plus at 6, Independiente Real Esteli. Champions League playoffs. Rangers and PSVs at 3. Rakov Shestakova, and this is the reverse fixtures. Rakov Shestakova and FC Copenhagen's at 3, and Antwerp and AEK's at 3. So that's your viewing habits for today. So a lot of stuff to talk about. We'll get back at it again tomorrow. Thanks for hanging out with us for another round of soccer down here. Traffic for the remainder of the week should be normal tomorrow. Later today, you'll have the USL Championship, League One, and MLS Next Pro programming out. You can listen to that. And that'll be out. Rough night for the Twos last night. Up 1-0 on a goal by Nicholas Firmino. And then the 3 leading goal scorers for Red Bull scored in order. 3-1 at the break. And it was a 4-2 final. So 4 matches left for the Twos. They have the week off before going back to the Fraction September 2nd to take on FC Cincinnati. Doubleheader day. It'll be FC Cincinnati, Atlanta United 2 here on the SDH Network. 4:45 pregame show. This is September 2nd. 5 o'clock kick because the match in Dallas for the first team is at 8:30, 8:39. So our match is over. You can go wherever you want to go to watch Atlanta United and FC Dallas, September 2nd. So the Twos, 4 matches left. They got a lot of work to do. They probably have to win out and get some help to get into the playoffs as the 7 seed. They are 8 points back of Hunt City, which is right now in that 7 seed in MLS Next Pro. So 4 matches left for the Twos after the 4-2 loss last night. Get the week off to kind of stare at everybody and have everything even up schedule-wise. So catch the Twos for their 2 remaining home matches this season at the Fraction. So it's a rough night, but goals by Luke Brennan on the assist from Alan Carlton, and Nicholas Firmino gets his 14th last night. So he's tied for second in the Golden Boot race with Jacqueline from OCB. And we'll be back at it again tomorrow. But opening kickoff, keep your thought to yourself, share it with others on the Discord, come back. Tomorrow morning, will you buy the 404 kit? That's the question. And we'll have our answers, and we'll talk stuff. Dylan Butler hopefully joining us at 10 o'clock, and we'll talk about things getting us ready for Atlanta and Nashville on the weekend. So for everybody here at SDH, thanks for hanging out with us for another go-around of Soccer Down Here. I'm just John. I'm going to not talk for a little bit. So we'll get back at it again. Thanks to all of you guys on the Twitch pitch, as always, for being intrepid Twitch pitch producers and corrugators of information. So since it's the end of the show, mucho plati, I'll play safe. Means I get to do this. We'll do it again 9:05 tomorrow morning.